Yeah. Hopefully they just go and play well again, like last year.
I
Well
agree.
worth it.
They finally got the time set.
So,
That was a massive mess. ESPN did broadcast it. Switched and
Switched from, not just recently, but,
last 2 weeks.
oh, I don't, when I looked early in the year, it's always been on Monday.
Right. And the time, they were gonna do
Okay.
something different. Yes. Something.
Figured it was something. Monday at 12 class, a little bit of a
yeah, odd time.
odd time.
Right.
for-
Mhm.
When are you going Sunday? or Tuesday?
No, we're flying out, out of Omaha.
Nice.
Okay, it's 4:50, so we will open up our first public hearing for the proposed resolution to consider continued participation in the instructional support program. Are you here to speak on behalf?
I'm not.
Then we will,
I watched the Wartburg game, which I think was played on Saturday. They ran that on ESPN last night. Yeah. Ended up 32-28, but
oh, really? I didn't even see that.
Wartburg was down 20.
Wasn't my favorite
First
first
half. And came all the way back and actually had to leave 28-20.
Oh, I know.
28, 24, 28,
It's gonna sound dumb.
20 something, 28, 23 it was. And then North Central, wherever they're from, scored on their last possession of the game
No, then-
to win. So,
Closer.
yeah, they lost a year ago, same semifinals, but it was, they went out to like Mount Union in Ohio.
okay.
Where was it played?
This year's was in Waverly. So they get to host. They had a statistic up there that said they had Wartburg had won 26 straight games at home.
Did you guys see your kids?
So it's like 4 years they hadn't lost at home or something.
Oh, yeah.
5 years.
Yeah, barely,
Barely.
because I actually ended up having a doctor appointment too.
Oh, yes, stay with your appointment.
So,
Yeah,
I mixed up on
yeah,
that.
Mrs. Evil.
that's okay.
Yeah.
I didn't even catch it when you said it, so.
I get something in my brain.
Wrong or right, a lot of things for moms to keep track of.
Yeah, it's just been like, whatever. It
Time did you get home from Brookings last night?
was like 11.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was fun. Hanging with SDSU for the first 2 quarters was kind of cool.
That's very cool. Welcome. Thanks for joining us. Hey, Brianna. Hey, Sky.
Okay, we will now open the second public hearing for tonight for the proposed plan for the 2024 facilities improvements, including a new bus barn and pedestrian bridge repairs. Anybody would like to address the board? Lisa, what does that?
Look right in, huh, Gabby?
Yep.
Mr. Jager let you out a couple minutes early.
On Wednesdays, we usually start practice earlier.
Well, that's right. Yep. Not a problem then. Plus it's pre-meet, right? Because you guys are going
Yeah.
Okoboji tomorrow.
Mhm.
Is there any other teams that are going to be there?
That's fine.
What's that?
You'll see it more than just compare more.
Okay, it's now 5 o'clock. We'll call the meeting to order. Please rise and pledge of allegiance with us.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Jackie, let's do the roll call.
Thanks.
Next, we'll adopt the agenda. Any corrections or additions?
Just one addition, in the resignation, I've added Kelly Weiler's resignation for assistant high school volleyball and her resignation, letters there. You can add that.
Any other changes?
That's it.
Do a motion?
Motion to
Sorry.
approve the
Yes.
agenda as amended.
My apologies. I'll
okay.
take a motion to approve and execute the agenda with the addition of Kelly Weiler's resignation.
Moved.
Second.
First and second, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Moving on. Public input on non-agenda items. We do have a sheet over there if anybody would like to talk. Was anybody to sign up? So, approval of minutes of past meeting. Two of them for the retiring board, plus the new organizational meeting. Both at the same time. Anybody have any corrections that they noticed? Take a motion to approve those past meetings when you're ready.
Make a motion to approve the past minutes.
Okay, first and a second to approve previous meeting minutes. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Moving on. Approval of financial items. Jackie.
Just a quick couple business official reports. As you can see there in number 1, KRP finalized the audit and financial statements for the fiscal year ending June 30th, except I forgot it. 2 on May 2022. And these reports have been submitted to the Department of Education and the Office of the State Auditor. The $625 filing fee is included in your summary list of bills. So we can close that chapter finally, and look forward to getting some updates on fiscal 23's audit as they move forward with that. She did say that they felt as though they were in a better position going forward. So hopefully it'll be a little bit smoother process for everyone involved. For those of you who've been on the board, the annual certified budget process was always typically, in the past, if time allowed, we did get together with the Budget and Finance Committee to kind of go over things. There's not a lot of items that we had control over in the certified budget process, so I have been sort of bringing it to the board as a whole just to let you know of any small and minor changes that are happening. So that's kind of the plan again this year, simply because, again, there's just not a lot of change that we can do within our certified budget. But the one thing that is different this year that's different from the past because of Iowa code change is now we'll be required to do 2 hearings. One hearing early on after the county sends out taxpayer statements that all taxpayers have the right to review. And if you have any public comment, they're allowed to come and give comment on those. And then you have the option to review your budget, and you can always make downward adjustments. You can't make upward adjustments from there. So you kind of have to have everything done a little bit like a month earlier this next year, which is hard when they don't get the budget to you till the beginning of February sometimes. So we'll kind of see how the process goes. And then we'll have to hold another public hearing in mid-April, looks like more towards the end of April, which doesn't align with our board meeting, so I'm not quite sure how we're going to do that, but we'll be in touch later as those things come out, and then we have to certify it by the 30th. So for newbies, the certified budget is a request to tax, basically. It's not actually a true budget. We do that in-house, but it's more or less a permission to tax. So that's kind of what the process involves. That's how we come up with our tax rate. So that's what I have to kind of give you on that, and that's all I know so far. I'm attending a webinar in January to learn a little bit more. Under financial reports, the first report, activities report, gives you information on our activity fund, our hot lunch fund, our student construction fund, FFA farm, and our split funding. For everyone, a refresher on split funding, that is the funds that we've been setting aside for since 2014, I believe, for self-funding our health insurance for our staff. So we have to have a certain balance in there in case that we have a lot of claims, because we do self-fund those claims. But as you can see, we have a pretty healthy balance. So last year, we funded right around $190,000 in health savings account employer contributions. And we're hoping we can do that again this year. We're just gonna have to see what negotiations and what everything else turns into. But as you can see, the balance is still quite healthy, so that's kind of what our plan is. Student construction, again, it's been running at a negative while they're finishing up that house for the buyer. Otherwise, I don't have too much to report on activities fund at this time. Moving into the special revenue fund report. That is the report that we've been kind of talking about the most lately, especially with our buildings and grounds and our finance committees, because our physical plant and equipment levy, and our playground and recreational equipment levy, and our save fund are the 3 important ones right now, and those balances as we move forward with the possible save bond and the bus barn and bridge repair improvements. As you can see, the balances together on the bottom, that does not include Pearl. Pearl is separate from my calculations, but later on you'll see a kind of an all-inclusive balance. We're right at around $1 million, so we still have healthy balances there as well. And then the annual treasurer's report. This report gives you a quick summary of the general fund, and our general fund is responsible for all of our day-to-day operations, our salaries, benefits, textbooks, supplies, utilities, fuel, kind of all the things that make the district run on a day-to-day basis. So you can kind of see we do a revenue recap on the right, an expenditure recap on the right, and a cash recap on the right. And then on the left is just to give you an idea of the income and expenditures that go in and out each month. And lastly, I always put in a payroll totals so you can kind of see what our payroll costs each month. Right around $600,000 for a general fund, and anywhere from $20,000 to $25,000 for a hot lunch fund, depending on the number of hours work for the number of days in the month. And then summary list of bills. I have 3 different attachments out there. Added a short one for later this afternoon for additional list of bills, so you can take a look at those. Otherwise, the other ones were posted. So feel free to review those and let me know if you have any specific questions.
Sure.
Yep.
If there's any specific questions, and I know Jackie's answered questions before that, if you guys have questions.
Yes, feel free to email me if you look at something even before we get here. You can certainly email me or Mr. Jorth if you want to ask the question, not in a public setting. I completely understand that. And then whatever that answer is, I usually try to bring it to the board to at least discuss it, because maybe somebody else has that same question of why we pay a bill, who it's to, what it's for, and how often it happens.
No other questions? Time reviewing the new list of bills. We'll take all three reports together. Take a motion to approve those.
I'll make a motion to approve the financial items as listed, including the additional bills.
Second.
First and second, all in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Moving on to administration reports, discussion items, recognition, congratulations to students, staff, and community.
You bet. We want to recognize the girls wrestling team. This last weekend, they won the tournament. I think it was at West Monona High School, the Western Iowa tournament. So congratulations to them. That's their second tournament victory this season. You can see Lucy Konieczny, Riley Nelson, Riley Weiler, and Emily Winkle were all individual champions at their specific weight classes. So girls are off to a great start. Guys had a couple meets here since we met last time. Basketball team's off and running. Just had the high school winter concert on Monday. That's why we moved the meeting to tonight. And then next Tuesday, we'll have the elementary 1st, 3rd, and 5th grade concert. So busy December as we're quickly approaching Christmas break. So congratulations to the girls wrestling team and all the activities that have started strong this winter. And then Mr. Harmon sent in a recognition for the Steam Reformed Church. They made a donation of clothing to kind of benefit students and families in need, and we appreciate them and their gift to our students. Anything else to add, Mr. Engelman, Mr. Harmon?
Very good. Moving on, student and staff presentation, Central Line CAPS program.
Yeah. What side do you guys want to be on? You guys
You?
Yes.
I'm gonna speak right in front.
Thank you.
Hey.
Start.
Thank you.
My name is Sarah DeVries. I am the CAPS instructor. We had a great group of associates this semester, and they want to share a little bit about the semester. So feel free to ask them questions, challenge them on what they did this semester. They did a great job, so they can get away from here.
I'm Brianna Bosch. I'm Veronica Stubbe.
I'm Zakai Dinsworth.
And I'm Gabrielle Rasmussen. And we were Central Lyon's first CAPS group. All right, so onboarding is the first month of CAPS, and essentially we're working on our professional skills that we will be using as we get our projects later on in the semester. So the design sprint is an event that we go to. First, we're presented with a problem, and then we're given 2 days to come up with a solution. And then we went to Orange City and we presented our solution to a board of panel or a panel of judges, and they told us what we could work on and what they liked about our presentation. We also learned about DISC assessment. So we went and we took the DISC assessment, and then we learned our work-based personality styles, which can help with communication. So essentially, if I know someone is an I or a C, I'll communicate with them differently, so to be like effective in communicating with them. The Agile Scrum is a tool for us to keep track of the tasks that we need to do and what we have done. And then the next three, branding, LinkedIn, and my credentials, were all topics that we met with professionals to talk about to help us with different skills. After onboarding, we were given projects to work on, and one of the very first projects that we worked on was with the RMHC. And for that project, we worked on creating a fundraiser to collect pop tabs, and we were able to set up locations around town as well as at the school. And we marketed this through Instagram and JMC, and we were able to collect 125 pounds of pop tabs, and 1 pound of pop tabs is equal to 1 night at the Ronald McDonald House. Another project we worked on was the student agency, and for that project we worked with other CAPS associates from around the nation, and we worked on small tasks to help spread the CAPS network. And then Gabby and I worked with Avera to create fitness videos to help demonstrate the new equipment that they have outside of Avera. And once those videos were created, we created QR codes that will then be put on the equipment. And then Gabby and I also worked with the city of Rock Rapids to create a video to help showcase Rock Rapids. And we also created an Instagram as well as some posts to be posted on it. I'll let you go. Street Treats.
Zakai, Riley, and I worked with Carroll Street Treats and the Vandersea family, and we helped their business grow through a lot of different ways. And throughout the process, we learned about a lot about business management, the supply chain, delivery routes, and like label redesign. So that was really cool. Throughout the course of our CAP semester, we were tasked with coming up with 3 career interviews. So what you would do is you would research professionals in the area that had a job in the career field you wanted to go into, and then you'd contact this professional either by emailing them or a phone call. You'd ask if they would be willing to have like a 15 to 20 minute interview with you, and then you schedule that interview. And before you went in for the interview, you were to research the job, openings near you that you could possibly go into one day, like the pay of the job, and write down a list of questions that you could ask them during the interview. And then the day of the interview, you'd go there, you'd introduce yourself by shaking their hand, and then you'd ask them all the questions you came up with. And then after the interview, you do a follow-up, and you retro and reflect, and you write down things that you like about the job, things that you learned that maybe you didn't like, and whether or not you still feel like this career would be a good fit for you.
Keep going.
Yeah.
Throughout the semester, we worked on professional skills. So some of the professional skills that we worked on is right here, like communicating, like making one-on-one conversation with businesses, sending emails, talking on the phone. And we also worked on networking. Networking is going out and meeting new people, seeing what they're interested in, seeing how their projects are doing throughout the course. And also, we dressed professionally throughout the whole entire semester. That was a little challenging because not all of us have professional clothes.
All right, so.
We would like to thank all of you for being here tonight, and thank you for your support of our CAP.
Do you have any questions?
How much time did you guys spend on this program?
So it's 7th and 8th period every day. We go to DTR just to get in a more professional workplace. And it's 7th, 8th period, and then flex time most days. So about almost 2 hours.
Were all the people that you reached out to open to meeting with you guys, or?
Yeah, they were all very willing to meet with us.
Is there plans for next semester? Are you guys continuing on?
We don't continue for the next semester,
Okay,
but she has a big group.
Yeah, we have 13 signed up right now.
okay, so it's just one.
Yeah, 1 semester.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good.
What challenged you the most?
Probably working with adults in like a more professional setting where I felt more of like, I was like more of an equal with them in this setting, and not, they didn't just give me instruction, I had to talk to them. Like an adult too.
Yeah. I'd have to say the projects, just making sure that we were able to accomplish what they wanted, and it wasn't just busy work that we were doing. That was something they were actually going to use. For me, I'd say it would be small talk because as a C for the DISC assessment, I struggle just talking to people one-on-one because sometimes I might seem cold or like I don't want to talk to people, but that's really not the case.
With me, it's phone calls. I didn't really like doing those. Yeah. I'm so used to do one-on-one talking and face-to-face.
We're gonna be really surprised at your DISC assessment result.
I wasn't. I was a D.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for all your guys' hard work. You, like you said, you're your inaugural class. You'll live in infamy. Thanks to Sarah for all your work getting the program up and running. As you guys heard, they're going to more than double their enrollment for next semester. So kudos to you guys for having a good experience and letting everybody else know what you're doing, and look forward to continued growth for the program.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
You're doing a good job of speaking there, you know, to come into a situation.
Very good.
Mr. Harmon?
Just a few things. You saw my summary on topic that has been brought up before. A couple things there before that. I wanted to share with the conference data that we have from our fall conferences for the new staff board members. Currently, we use a program through GMC. It's a package deal that we can get it where the parents can go and sign up. It shows them what teacher or advisors that they have options to. For the preschool through 6, our average attendance was 94.8%. So it shows that the system we have is working, and puts some more responsibility on those parents. Instead of having us assign them a time, they have some more flexibility, which is also good. But again, with that high of attendance and what our process is, if a parent wouldn't show up, we give them a chance to reschedule or meet after conferences if it doesn't work. And then we try and at least share the information out of the parents, don't make it to either night. So it is ongoing communication, that's good. And it's good to see those 2 nights that are utilized by our community and our parents. Second thing, coming back at the end of October was our book fair and hot lunch week. Just to give you some numbers for that, I think everyone's been in here has been through that so far. Overall, we had just about a little over $11,000 that ran through the school that week. So that's really exciting to see great support from our parents and families. First thing was for our hot lunch menus, we had over 342 paid meals that people showed up during that week in those 5 days. Right on average of 65 to 70 per day, which is really cool. And then also for our book fair, we had 79 books donated to the library, which is, again, just a staggering number. 18 kids who did not have family members show up were able to go there and pick out a book through private donations, making sure that everyone has that opportunity. And then immediately 40 books through Scholastic were then returned right to the library just for having that amount of money given there. And then the cash amount is what we use for our programs, and then also to keep our library up to date for the rest of the school year. So really good week, really enjoy that, but the community support is just staggering, so it's a great thing to be part of. Those are 2 of the smaller ones, and then kind of follow up with communication with some board members earlier in this. So this is going back, well, actually, Mr. Dorff and myself for 2 years now. One thing we like to do is at the beginning of the year prior, gives us some information that AEA shares with us, and that's called the Healthy Indicators of a School District. It not only shows areas of strength, but also talks about areas that you want to identify, look at, and see if we can improve our system here at Central Lyon. For 2 years straight, we had the exact same data, same grades that weren't improving or weren't showing the kind of growth that the grades were, and so you start digging into that and to try to find out a reason why, and that's what led us to our big initiative this year that we started right after the school year, so right after the new year in December. In January, we started looking at this, and we came up with a process to try and unify our efforts of of what we're doing each day to try to make that time more efficient. As you see in the packet, it does show what we came up with, which is a sample schedule. Knowing that the beginning of the day is probably the most coveted time and the highest learning capability of our students, we wanted to put literacy and math in that block of time. Now, the state of Iowa mandates that each school have 90 minutes of literature, and this is year, I think, 6 of that. So it's not something new. The issue is, or the difference here at Central Lyon is, we've never really told the teachers of when to use that 90 minutes. And so we had some grades that were using it 20 minutes here, 10 minutes after lunch, kind of sporadic. And then as we see when we have a different schedule, those little times then can disappear for special events, whatever. And is that good? Is that good practice? And so as we moved on with this type of schedule, when you try to put it all the way back together, you got to try and find a way for all those pieces to fall together. And that's where we try to utilize our TLC staff on our intervention time in the afternoon. But one thing we also did with our new math series that we adopted this year was try to find, as the data also showed that we have some lacking numbers in our math programs overall, is try to find another intervention time for our math. And so that's kind of what we currently took on as a challenge this year. We did present this to all the teachers at the beginning of May. So we had just over 5 weeks left for them to absorb this information and not just give it to them right before they leave for the summer where they wouldn't really think about it or have a lot of fear. And so those 5 weeks we used, met with each team individually, kind of sat with them. We administered a survey right before they left. So if they did have questions, those are things that both myself and the TLC staff could pinpoint and get them information over the summer, so it's not this big gap in their process. And then when we got back to school, we administered another survey, in fact 3 total, just to make sure that if they have questions that we're able to give them any information or make small adjustments, as what my paragraph says down below. We're trying to utilize our staff and then give us the best time to educate what our kids need. And again, that's a sample is you have your literacy block or 90 minutes all at once, uninterrupted. You have a small break of some type, whether it be specials or a recess, then they come back and then they have that 60-minute block for math, and then they can go to lunch. So those blocks have breaks, and when I say 90 minutes, no, it's not 90 minutes of kids sitting on the carpet all at once. There's small transitions and those type of things. But at the same time, there's not any other interruptions, okay? And that's kind of what I wanted to hand out as well, is this was given to the teachers of all the schedules that they may run into during the school year. This hopefully gives them guidance of how and when our priorities should remain as they encounter those different schedules. So it doesn't matter if we run a 2:15 dismissal, doesn't matter if we have a 2-hour late start, doesn't matter if we have a 1:15 dismissal. Again, those coveted times of that 90-minute literacy or that 60-minute math are always there. That's our priority, because those are the things that Iowa assesses all those grades. Science doesn't start with an assessment until 5th grade, and social studies doesn't have an assessment yet that we formally use. Now, we do our internal assessments of how that goes, but at the same time, those are the things that right now Central Lyon Elementary is graded on pretty much across, according to the state. So, a couple things that we've done, and this goes back to 5 years of implementing inter-reading. We chose a series for that. As Carrie knows, we work very close with. All those stories now have a science and a social studies focus. So it's not just random stories. We have more of an intentional purpose of those stories that help build our literacy process. Okay. Now we have a tier 2 practice, which we talked about before, and I can give that more later. But at the same time, that helps mesh our needs throughout the day instead of having a separate literacy, a separate math, a separate social studies, and a separate science time. Where now that they can use those or interlock those times to try and get the most out of our time in the day. Because that was the other option, is to make the school day longer, but that probably wouldn't be very popular. So at the same time, that's what we wanted to do is, see it?
Sure.
As a staff, is just to make sure that, this is a good starting spot with our new math curriculum of building that 60 minutes time in there, and then also what we did in the afternoon is put a math intervention time in there to, again, reinforce those basic skills to hopefully have our math scores increase in the future, so. Any questions?
Further, like the reading and the math intervention
Yep.
in the afternoon, is that done in the class for the most part then? Or
Great question. The reading intervention is also the time for our title, special ed, and also our tag to pull out. So that they have times where the students actually leave the classroom and then they're stuck, or I should say stuck. That middle group of students is still in the classroom with the teacher. The math intervention time is all done in the classroom. Now, the only time that the student might be pulled out is if they have specific SDI time, and that if it doesn't work in the morning or during that 60 minutes, that might be a time that they have to pull out for that. But for the majority of our kids, I'd say all but probably a handful for the math intervention, they're all in the classroom working through small centers as a group, which is another challenge that we kind of dealt with.
So do the different grades then, that math and reading intervention time, that's not necessarily the same?
No,
for the grades
right, and that's what our big handicap is in the afternoon, trying to get our title teachers or Mrs. Baker available for all the grades to have access to. I mean, that's a challenge. We did find a common time there, but it does squeeze everything out, every minute out of the day. I mean, there's not a lot of downtime. Questions? Other things?
So are the intervention teachers going into the rooms on other times then, I assume, like throughout the morning?
Yes,
And
if there's an identified need, yes, then they are, and they have been all year going and working with that teacher inside that time. Ideally, if you had enough staff, you'd like to see every teacher have another intervention personnel there, but it's just, we have too many different groups to look at. So more or less, we try to prioritize. If a teacher has a high need, for example, our first grade has some higher numbers in this year, has some higher needs there as well, but at the same time, so that's where our emphasis was right away at the beginning of the year to help those teachers out. We've just recently met with them, talked about, how as things have gotten easier, how we want to make that more like every other classroom so that we don't have, like what they do for really great reading, which is our intervention piece there in the morning, where we have another teacher pull a section out so they can start moving them back in. So, that's all things we're trying to work on so that everything's the same at the end of the year, what they see in second or third or fourth grade.
I know probably at the beginning of the year doing these changes and our new math curriculum, it's kind of a big adjustment for our teachers.
It was a lot.
How is it now? Does it feel?
From their last survey, it was all small tweaks. I think they kind of understood what we were trying to do as a district. Like small tweaks, like can we move our lunch about 5 minutes so that we have more time for recess? So, the focus was less on our systems and more on, okay, how can we make this a little better transition between that? So I feel that, the questions are there, but at the same time, I hope our teachers see the value in what we've done in the morning, and that's protect those times there with our reading and our math instruction.
So you mentioned survey, did you survey them, teachers prior or?
I surveyed them in May before they went home for the school year, and I surveyed them in August. And then October 9th was a full staff in-service, our last full PD day with Lusher Math. That was the third time I surveyed them. Just to make sure that if they had any concerns or questions, that they were given a chance to say, I need help here or whatever.
Then just like today, Mr. Harmon and I met with the third and fourth grade team to talk about how we can maybe squeeze out some additional science and social studies time for those kids that are at the upper end of the elementary. They're transitioning to fifth grade next year, making sure they're prepared for a dedicated science and social studies time so we don't have any gaps in that transition from elementary to middle school.
that was gonna be one of my questions. Like, are you worried at all that those kids will be a little bit behind in science and social studies if they're, I understand we're not like graded on it assessment wise until they're older, but like they're obviously getting a lot less since they don't have each subject every day, so.
Well, and that's my hope, is something that we've worked on in the past is AE has offered I don't know, it was 5 days for social studies and 5 days for science, how to intertwine that with your reading block. So we had gone through that, and that's something that we refer to where the teachers, this work is already done to make sure, and same thing with our interreading, is everything is science or social studies focused. You know, the word we use is exposure with those, you know, and it's really hard. I mean, those, if you have a science teacher, that's the interesting things. I mean, it really is compared to numbers on a page or reading about a story that you don't really appreciate. But at the same time, you know, my hope is that we continue to build chances for our grades to look at how we can mesh those together instead of just reading a story about something that's irrelevant. Okay, let's read about a science topic. I've observed a teacher, one of the science topics in there was about the human eye and how it, you know, uses vision. So it does have those components in there to help us, you know, keep those things in alignment.
They go every other day, every other quarter
With
social studies and science.
it kind of depends on the group. Right now, currently the 4th grade has 2 days of science, 2 days of social studies. 3rd grade kind of looked at it more of a quarterly type thing or a kind of a midterm focus, you know, to try to squeeze out as much time. And
That's what we're still kind of working on, Amy. It's trying to, our focus with the new math curriculum and the new math intervention time this first semester has really been math.
Yep.
But now that we're getting more comfortable with the routines with illustrative math, with the intervention activities in the afternoon, there's an opportunity for us to get more science and social studies time, specifically for our upper elementary. And so that's what those tweaks that we're making, the conversations Mr. Harmon and Mrs. Baker are having with those teams is to honor the math work, but as you get more and more comfortable, can we get back to a more consistent day-to-day science and social studies time?
And that's a common conversation I've had through multiple levels is as they're getting used to this curriculum, they can see where they can start squeezing more time where a normal lesson for them may take an hour, but if they teach that same lesson next year, less examples, less exploration, so maybe it's not, they don't have to do everything that's included in it because of course, it's like every curriculum, it's got tons of resources. They can maybe get it down to 45 minutes, you know, so they're starting to see ways to streamline that process as well. So it was a lot to take on them. You are very right.
Have you noticed an increase at all with like negative behaviors, like especially younger kids sitting through like the 90 minutes or the 60 minutes?
Our PBS data does not show an increase at all. No. The biggest thing is we're trying to, and with the new team there is just start to get better data, you know, but our number of referrals are not up.
Thanks, Mr. Harmon.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks.
All right, my report, just kind of refresh everybody's timelines in regards to the facilities projects tonight. Oh, I'm sorry, I skipped right over.
So for those of you that maybe have got some of those things, they came on the 12th here, so just the other day. So big thanks to the Friends of the FFA, a lot of family involvement, and the FFA officers led by Lily Henry, Keaton Fong, Jade Overall, and Kaylee Van Tilburg did a lot of work leading up to this and helping a stand-in advisor who knows nothing about FFA fruit sales. Went off without a hitch as far as I'm concerned. And again, a lot of great help by Rochelle Herbert and Teresa Hogan-Norm, so I want to give them all the praise. We used the 4-H building down at the fairgrounds, and that was awesome. It was just a great venue to do that, well organized, and the kids did a really nice job of getting the materials out. So hopefully you received those. If not, we always order some extra supply to make sure we get it out to our customers. So that was a success. Want to report that. End of the quarter semester is set for Tuesday, December 19th. So next week, we're already coming to the end of the first semester in the high school, the 7 through 12 building. And then just follow up with Sarah's program there. That CAP program's been amazing. For those of you that didn't know, we first started with a partnership with Avera Medical many years ago, and that's kind of the first work-based learning partnership that we established. We brought on Sarah and the CAPS network, which Jordan's been instrumental in, and that's been nothing but fantastic. You saw firsthand the employability skills, which is just off the charts. They're doing some things in their daily classes, like stand-ups, where they critique themselves and how can I get better? And it's all about communication and networking. And it's really showing in the employability side, but also in the classroom, because now those kids, believe it or not, we have a lot of kids who are apprehensive to ask teacher questions, even interact student to student, and they're kind of the patriarchs that kind of champion that, and now I think more kids have seen their progress and want to be a part of it. So we're looking at ways to build that more so into our lower level programs. Maybe not necessarily CAPS, but we can embed some of that in our careers exploratory for our 8th graders. So maybe more to come with stuff like that, but CAPS is certainly one of our highlights for semester.
How many kids could you have in that program?
In the CAPS program?
Yeah.
It says only 13 is a lot.
Going from 5 to 13
Exactly.
is a big jump.
So you want to get enough projects and people are still locally buying into it. I mean, it's hard to give up control of some things, some high school students, but these kids are professionals and they're active professional. So it's going to take a little bit of time, but we're bringing on that. It's going to be kind of a CAPS medical, so we're going to infuse some of the CAPS content and concepts. But 13 is a large number. And it's hard scheduling. That's 2 periods a day kids don't have available. So if we can get them into, be more intentional in our career exploratory and some of our other classes, those employability skills will be good.
All right, sorry to steal your
That's
thunder.
okay.
You guys did a little something like that I didn't see.
I was ready.
Tonight, we do have the consideration of the bids we received last month. If approved, Finance Committee met, that's another agenda item. If the same bond terms are approved, we would first start with funds received in February to begin those projects as soon as the snow melts. I think our paperwork said April, but if we do have a lightly snowed spring or winter, we could start earlier in the spring. So substantial completion date is the end of October. So the bridge would be done by the time school starts, bus barn in the fall. So that's kind of the update. As far as our projects are concerned, we did have a couple committee meetings in preparation for tonight's meeting. Like I said, the Finance Committee met. The Policy Committee met, and our leadership, Amy and Scott and I met as well. So I know we'll have a couple more committee meetings between now and our next meeting. So I appreciate your guys' extra time in finding times that work with all the kind of reshuffling of our committee assignments and kind of learning what those committees are working with. So.
Thanks. All right, moving on, board committees, anybody need to report or have anything? Okay. Next, old business item, table item, considered public hearing notice of sale of parcel A of the current bus barn property. We'll leave that item is tabled as of this point in time. There's nothing to act upon.
Yep.
Probably look at that.
Yep, I think the Buildings and Grounds Committee will meet, after tonight's meeting and have that conversation about how quickly we want to move with that parcel. I was in contact with Lisa Deeren, kind of unofficial appraisal of those 2 properties down there. The land themselves is about $50,000 a piece. And then the structure, the current bus barn structure, should say another $50,000. So all in down there, about $150,000. And that's what I want to have further conversations with the Buildings and Grounds Committee about. What do we ultimately want to start with? Because if we do sell that, it'd be a very similar process to how we sold the industrial tech building. We publish notice, set a minimum bid, and then essentially turn it into an auction. So people could submit a bid, they could show up, they could go through that process. Scott will be able to be our auctioneer, but then the highest bidder ultimately would be the person who shows up and makes that bid that night.
Any questions about that? Okay, moving on to new business. Consider bids for 2024 facility improvements.
I did upload FEH's recommendation. Again, they've done their due diligence on the bid packages that were received from the 5 bidders, with Vision's Construction Group being the low bidder. As you can see, the numbers listed on the recommendation or on the spreadsheet. $1,863,000 for the bus barn. The alternate, $127,200 for the additional paving, and then the middle school bridge repairs at $255,000. So again, the options for the board here are either reject the lowest bid or accept the lowest bid. We cannot pick and choose between different projects. The project is kind of a comprehensive project. My recommendation that I put in here is to accept the bus barn bid and the pedestrian bid bridge repairs, but to forego and not accept the additional paving for the alternate. So the total would be $2,118,000 to Vision's Construction Group.
You want to recap that additional paving that we're leaving out?
Yep, so in conversations with the Rock Rapids Utilities and DGR, just instead of paving the approaches and the surround of the bus barn, and potentially having to tear that back up for future utility work out there, if we want to do additional paving down the road, we can do that whenever we see fit. But initially, I think the concrete apron around the building would be very similar to what we currently have at the bus farm right now, with the big difference being we can get all of our buses inside where we can't necessarily do that currently. So the surround and everything would be gravel, crushed concrete, but the structure itself and then a small apron around the building would be what is included in the base bid. Yep.
Okay. Any additional questions? Okay.
One, just little housekeeping thing, for the
Yep.
contact person, does that need to be updated?
Yep, I'll put the Amy and Jordan going forward as the new Buildings and Grounds Committee members. We'll include them. I think I just kind of copied this previously, but for sure, we'll make sure that's correct going forward.
Any other questions or comments? If not, I will seek a motion.
I will make a motion to award the bid to Vision's Construction Group as listed.
Second. I'll second. Okay, good. Got a first and a second to approve the bids to Visions for the bus barn and bridge repair for $2,180,000. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. Okay. Moving on. Consider quote for preschool and elementary playground.
I just uploaded this today, the quote, kind of been finalizing that with ABC Creative. You can see the total is $184,656, and this is just for the equipment. Okay, this does not include the installation or the removal of the existing equipment. That'll come here after the first of the year. But as you can see, this equipment from ABC Creative is a part of a purchasing cooperative. So you'll notice that each item there has a discount except for the freight. And that's kind of a state negotiated contract. So these are the lowest kind of prices for this equipment. So again, it's my recommendation, $184,656 is approved. And then This is factored into our save bond that is next on the agenda.
Is there any idea how much inflation is out?
You know, that's kind of going through that process with that we had budgeted a total of $240,000 for the full project.
How much did you say for the full project?
240.
And Jackie, were you planning on taking any of this from Pearl or what?
Nope.
No,
Nope.
this is all.
This is, we kind of changed directions here
Okay.
when we started re-looking at the bus barn and all the other things, so we're gonna proceed with the save bond.
Yep.
There may be some stuff for like the preschool, because we got a little excess in our preschool kind of categorical funding.
Yep.
So the 2 to 5 equipment that you see here, some of that could be coded to preschool, but the vast majority is going to be in the save bond.
And so this, just to be clear, on this playground is for,
Kind of the multicolored elementary playground, and then also equipment for the preschool. Yep. So there's a picture here.
The two on the left for the preschool.
Yep. So again, this doesn't have the dimensions, but this kind of darker green section, this equipment is the same footprint as the multicolored portion of the current playground. Stuff that's here on the left, this is from that same company that would go up on the preschool side. And then there's an additional saucer, and then some equipment that we currently have would be reused. So that's where the layout here of the preschool, you think you can kind of visualize up there right now, this is the current preschool playground. So the new piece of equipment would go where there's like some wood chips and some beams and such. The saucer is new, and then the hand over hand kind of mini monkey bars is a piece of equipment that was bought before I even started at Central Line that's just never been installed. And then we would repurpose like the playground or the playhouse and the sandbox. But what we're extending is we're extending the fence so that green space where the Lyon currently is would become a part of that preschool playground. We'll relocate the Lyon across the entrance sidewalk in front of the flagpole. So they're going to have almost double the amount of space, so they'll actually have some green space that's fenced in addition to all the new equipment and repurposing of the old equipment.
and then you said part of our categorical spending for preschool.
Yep.
Could be used for.
Could be used for.
Yep.
And so under this one is going to be the rubber mulch one out there, and the front is turf, or right?
Yep.
That's it. Teachers will be happy not to have that rock anymore.
Well, it'll still be P-rock out
I was
there.
gonna say, are they gonna be separated then?
Yep, so that kind of center structure will have the rubber mulch.
The rest will be P-rock.
Oh, sure.
Never get rid of the rock.
Yeah, that's probably true.
Maybe over time, but not,
Yeah.
this is kind of, think about this as phase one.
The timeline will be done.
As soon as school is out, as soon as the preschool kids are done, because they're done a little bit sooner than the elementary is, so we'll begin demolition and kind of that process. With everything ready to go by the time kids come back in August.
Yeah, if you haven't noticed, unfortunately, even our school tree in there had a hard windstorm come through and take the top off, so. yeah, Take that up too.
Any other questions or comments? Okay. We'll accept a motion and a second to consider the quote for preschool and elementary school playground equipment.
I'll make a motion to approve the bid for the elementary and preschool playground equipment.
Second?
Got a first and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, consider the same on terms.
So Finance Committee met yesterday, Carrie, Amy, Jackie, and I with Matt Gillespie from Piper Sandler. And we went over the three kind of 7-year, 10-year, 12-year bond repayment schedule, as well as the cash flow of Pebble, Save, Pearl. And it's our recommendation that we go with kind of bond terms of 10 years, 10-year repayment plan, and a private issuance of those bonds. And so the 10-year bond repayment would be really normalized with our current bond payment for the weight room, wrestling room, office areas for the first 6 years, 5 years. And so the total payments between both projects would be around $450,000 to $460,000. So that would be committed to bond, essentially a mortgage payment. And then that would leave us roughly $550,000 for our ongoing projects, whether it's roof repair, whether it's future classroom remodels, whether it's the maintenance and repairs of the current building, whether it's additional buses and vehicle purchases that are part of our kind of our capital outlay. So that's what's kind of reflected in the cash flow. If you'd open that up, you can see these are would be the save revenues, essentially the 1 cent penny that's coming in each month. Yep. These are our ongoing Pebble and Pearl revenues in the second column. And then this is, in this middle column, is our debt payments over time. The middle larger column are all the different projects, reoccurring expenses that we have planned, and you can see the various boxes kind of detail what those projects are. And then the unique kind of one-off projects is the next column. So you can see we're planning for a track structural spray, not this summer, but the following summer, in addition to in the summer of 2025, starting phase 1 of elementary classroom remodels, in addition to our first roof repair. Okay, so those are the columns, and then the interest on the sales tax, and then our running cash flow is this by month. So you can see at this point, we're at just over $1 million, like Jackie had in our finance report. And even with our bond repayment plan, we would still carry roughly $1 million balance in our Save, Pebble, Pearl accounts combined. And she's reporting on that each month.
And if you note the 1,056 up in the right corner, that is our lowest balance right now, and it will continue to be our lowest balance. We won't, in our predictions, we should not go lower than that. So we'll continue to build reserve for future projects or a catastrophic event or whatever that case might be. So we feel pretty good about that as well.
Because annually, we are, our
Taking in,
revenues,
save around $1 million, $950,000 to $1 million. And then your other revenues, like your Pebble and Pearl in that third column, is anywhere from, Pebble is 200 or 300 and some, and Pearl is 40.
that's what we're getting every year.
Yep.
Correct.
And that's-
And our current PEPAL levy is it's set to expire in 2033. We just renewed that not too long ago. We do that at a 10-year. So if you go further into that cash flow, he has that going away just because you just don't know what the vote might be. But even with that, you can see we're doing well in our balances.
And so as far as the cash flow is concerned, that's why we feel comfortable with 10 years. You know, if we went to a 7-year term, now we're looking at a $600,000 annual repayment back. Even though we probably would be okay, you know, we feel a little bit more comfortable with that $1 million balance in case something should happen. All of a sudden we gotta buy 2 buses, or all of a sudden we gotta replace 2 roofs in the same year,
Or a boiler.
or something that's unplanned happens. Now, if we get 3 or 4 or 5 years down the road and we haven't had any of those unforeseen things, you know, throughout the bid process, whatever the bond ends up being, we may have the option to repay the bonds early. And so that would be an option for the board in the future. If you recall, you know, Carrie and Scott, I think my first year, we refinanced the 2014 bond because interest rates had went down so low. So those things will continue to exist, and just depending upon the economic situations at the time, we might be able to pay them off early, or, you know, make additional changes if we need to.
We had talked about that for the existing board members a few years back about even doing that with our current bonds, and then we decided to do some restroom projects, and things just continue to pop up that are of a more of a priority than paying off those. So it's always an option, but
Anything else, Carrie or Amy, from our meeting yesterday?
No, I appreciated Matt. He was super thorough, and I feel like
it's amazing how much he knows for every district he works
Yeah.
with. I mean, I sent him what I thought was a bumbled mess, and he can put it kind of together and understand it better than sometimes we do. So we really appreciate him as well.
Yep. If approved, we'll contact Piper Sandler. They'll put the terms out, and then we'll begin to collect those. So the timeline going forward would be in January, at our January 8th meeting, we should have those bids back, and we would be able to award.
You know, the 9th. You don't take another day away from me in January, isn't it the 9th?
I think it's the 8th.
Oh, okay.
It's the 8th. I'm not eating on Sunday.
No, you know, my anniversary was Sunday.
So, well, we should have those bids back by January. We would have to have a second special meeting ultimately, once the paperwork's been finalized. But we would anticipate a very short meeting, be the only agenda item, something where if you can't make it in person, we could do that. It'd be a Zoom, or you could call in. Essentially, we're just placing the bonds.
Correct.
So the recommendation is for me, giving me authorization to tell Piper Sandler to offer the bonds for a 10-year term and a private sale of those bonds. $2.5 million.
2.5 is, we're calculating that with the 2.118. And
Your playground equipment, if you put that thing back up, it's a bulk up. Yeah, your playground equipment and
At the bus barn and the bridge.
bridge. It's right there. Middle school bridge, elementary playground, and your bus barn. And we are at 2.5 million.
2.4,
2.3.
2.485. And then, there's fees associated with the issuance of the bonds that bring in another 48,000.
I would assume Matt's fairly confident from what he's seen with these bond rates and everything. Shouldn't be a surprise. If there is, can we go back?
We can pivot to a public sale. Yep. So if there's not interest in that, at our January 8th meeting, we can pivot to the public sale, and it would delay it a couple weeks.
Right.
We might need to have another special meeting, but we would still have funds in the bank ready to go by the time we wanted to start construction on the bus barn or the middle school bridge.
I feel like he seemed pretty confident yesterday.
Yeah.
He anticipated like 4 to 6, getting about 4 to 6 back. That would be
Yeah, and even if it's not your true local banks, a national-wide private bank, like a JP Morgan or, whatever that case might be, so. They're pretty competitive, he said, so.
And they go out directly, and contact the local
Yep,
banks.
Piper Sandler actually out of Minneapolis contacts and advertises.
Bid
Yep.
back.
Yep.
If you remember correct, I don't know who was on the board, Frontier was who we refinanced with.
Yeah.
I want to say it was them and another somewhat local bank that did those.
It was different Iowa bank,
Yeah.
I think. It wasn't necessarily a Northwest
Right.
Iowa bank.
Correct.
So,
Any other questions or comments? Otherwise, I would entertain a motion for the save bond terms.
I'll make a motion to approve the save bonds for the 10-year private for $2.5 million.
Second.
Okay, got a first and a second. All in favor, signal. Say aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Next on the agenda, consider resolution for continued participation in the instructional support program.
So my apologies, we did a resolution last month, so we're going to just cross all our Ts and dot our Is and do another resolution. I do this once every 5 years and I sort of blanked out. So last month, you gave authorization to continue to participate, to put notice in the paper, to provide a public hearing so people have any comments or questions. That was last month. We went ahead and did the resolution we shouldn't have. And so this month, we put the notice in the paper. We had no public comment. So now we're going to approve the resolution to tell the state that we've done all what we need to do and we're proceeding. So my apologies that we're going to do this twice, but we're going to do this twice. So if no one has any other further questions, that's what I need from you is a first, a second, and then we'll do a roll call vote.
If there's no comments or any questions, we'll take a motion, entertain a motion in a second to approve the continued participation in the instructional support program.
So moved.
I'll second.
All right, and Davis,
Aye.
Sturman.
Aye.
Manning.
Aye.
Postma.
Aye.
Carter.
Aye.
Thank you all.
Next on the agenda, consider the district plan for at-risk dropout prevention and early dropout services for 24-25.
You want to take this one, or you want to take this one, Jordan?
Jackie's got a very detailed report there explaining all of the different initiatives, programs that we have implemented. And then she also gave you the budget totaling.
Significantly more than what we get, but I want to
Yep.
give you an idea of kind of all the programs that we touch if they gave us free reign.
$781,625,000. Like she said, we're not going to receive that much. Our total allocation, is going to be $266,000. As you can see there, local property tax is $88,903. And then the state money is $177,806. So you can see, really, we're talking about people, right? We're funding people with these programs. And then the second document that she had in there kind of explains what all those programs are and the people that are attached to them.
Last year, this year, we always approve it now for 24, 25, or last year we approved it at this time for this year. our allocation went up about $6,000. So it's based on enrollment, and this is what we have the option to do with it, and they leave it up to complete local control, which is really, really nice. So we've gone through it and made sure we have good programs in place.
Good. Any questions or comments? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve the district plan for at-risk dropout prevention and returning dropout services for 24-25.
Second.
Yeah, motion and second to approve the district plan. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Carried. Next, consider the first reading of revised and new policy.
So policy committee met, went over, really, we're talking about 5 policies with a host of different exhibits and regulations that go along with them. So I try to give you kind of a summary there. All 5 of these are mandated changes that came out of the last legislative session. We waited to adopt these because of kind of the rulemaking process after the legislature wrote the law. Then the Department of Ed had to provide some sample policies and some recommendations. And then the School Board Association then provides us with sample policies. And so 50301 is the student conduct or student discipline policies. Kind of updating those with the exhibit is what the state provided. So being fully transparent with what the state is telling us to do. And then the policies there that are marked up really are coming from the School Board Association. So we didn't feel like we wanted to make any unique changes for us here at Central Lyon, even though we've had conversations with our principals and our building leadership teams around those sample policies and making sure we're comfortable with implementation. This is the first reading. We'll have a second reading in January. Once we are done with the second reading, they're approved. With this student discipline policy, we'll have to update the handbook, and then we'll have to provide copies or access to parents. And we actually have to get active consent from parents that they've seen the policies. So since it's happening during the middle of the school year, there'll be a form that'll go home, be an email, then kids and families will have to return those. If they don't, we'll follow up with a phone call, do it the very best we can, but document if we don't get something back. Going forward in subsequent years, this will be a part of the registration process every August. When you do your online registration, you're acknowledged that you're aware of the policies, you have a copy of the handbook. But this year, since it's year 1, we've got to have that active process. Student identity disclosure. So 50307 is a student that's tells their teacher they want to be called by a different name, or it says to a school counselor that they're transitioning from a male to a female. We've got to notify parents, and the parents have to provide their permission for us to use a different name than what's in GMC. Okay, we are not. My daughter, for example, in GMC is Lillian Jorth. We're not going to require that these forms have to be filled out so that the teachers can call her Lily, right? We're not going to that extreme. We're going to look at the intent of the student and get permission from the parent if indeed we want to make a name change in our student information system. So that's 50307 and some forms that go along with that to acknowledge, get the parent permission or to notify the parent that students made that request. 60501, 60502, and 60503 have to deal with selection, objection, and inspection of our materials. So when parents want to see what textbooks we're using or what materials are in the library, this is what these 3 policies have to deal with. Gets a lot of press around book banning right now. So again, this came out of the legislation last year, vetted by the School Board Association. So we're really aligning our policies to make sure that we're following the law and we're dotting our I's and crossing our T's here. So this is the first reading. If there's any other feedback that you guys may have that you want to personalize it, let us know. But policy committee, we're really comfortable with the school board association has provided, and just want to be consistent with the law, make sure that we're doing what we're supposed to be doing.
Right, going back to that 503.01, just to clarify.
Yep.
Because we have to change the student handbook and get a parental permission or
Consent, yep.
consent, sorry, yep. When will that policy actually be enforced? And is it when we approve it or when we get the student handbook updated and the consent returned?
So the law says it's in effect right now.
Right.
So we're going to follow the law, even though our policies aren't
Okay. Got
updated yet.
Okay.
So this is just an act of transparency. So we've done our due diligence, we've followed what the Department of Ed's requested, went through School Board Association's legal counsel to make sure what we're doing is accurate, and then communicating to families once the policy's updated.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? If not, I will entertain a motion to approve the first reading of revised and new policies as listed.
Make a motion to approve the first reading, revised new policies.
I'll second.
Motion made second to approve the policy listed. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Now moving on to personnel.
So we got resignation from Coach Jamie Shaw and Coach Kelly Weiler from the volleyball program, and then the hiring of Austin Winkle as a volunteer girls wrestling coach. The resignation letters are included from Coach Shaw and Coach Weiler, and then a copy of the Board of Educational Examiners license for Austin.
Any questions or comments about those? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve the resignations as listed and the hirings.
Make a motion to approve the resignation and hiring as listed.
I'll second.
Okay, got a motion and a second to approve the resignations and hirings as listed. All in favor, say aye. All opposed? Just like to publicly thank Jamie and Kelly as well for their years of service and their dedication to the volleyball program. Yep, moving on to announcements and dates through.
Like I said, it's been a busy December already. While we're closing in on the end of the semester for our students and heading into Christmas break, the big event next week would be our elementary winter concert. So that'll happen on Tuesday. I did want to remind everybody that we will be in class until 3:15 on Thursday. And then on Friday, we'll make up the day that we missed for state football. So Friday will be a 1:15 dismissal, but we're expecting kids to be in class on Friday, making up that day that we missed before. Then we're on break for a little over a week and a couple days. Over break, we will have the Central Lyon Booster Club Wrestling Tournament, but classes do resume on Wednesday the 3rd. And then I just want to confirm that the 8th works for everybody.
Nothing.
Not the 9th. Because
It does work for you though, Jack.
It has to. Yeah.
so that would, like I said, the big thing in January will be the same bond. Well, it's back for consideration and just kind of keep that ball rolling so we don't miss anything. Matt is not available the following week. It is Martin Luther King Jr. Day on the 15th. So,
Yeah, I would say even if one of you can't be here, as long as we have a quorum, we need to move forward.
8th is good.
It's fine for me.
Is there anything on the calendar that
There was a JV something, I think,
maybe goes up?
that's one thing I saw. I didn't think that affected anybody here other than if you were roughing or something.
Okay.
Bill review.
Bill review, there's a, as you saw from the, listings, there's a lot of them.
Jason, Steve, thanks, guys.
Good to see you, Mike.
I had to go out of it and then go back in and look right here.
Sorry, but I might have to just sign off.
Yeah.
This week,
Oh, to
mine
see the
and it showed
resignation, I had to refresh it.
up.
Yeah, I went to like the other board agenda and then
That's what I
back
did
in there
too.
and then.
We should have done that earlier, but I didn't see Mr. Harmon.